it doesn't. So what I need you to do is just follow the slide. You can get the slide later. There is one assignment. It's not in Paradox. What you have to do is on a piece of paper and submit it in. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. Okay, so the slope for this one is -3/5. Good morning, William. So to do this, again, you choose any 2 points. It has to be the exact point. And 1 over here, down 3/5. Okay, questions? And then the next thing that we learned last week is we're going to find the slope when 2 points are given to you. I'm going to enter in grade today for Khan Academy. There are a couple assignments that I assigned from last week. If you did not do it, you have today to finish up, okay? I will not enter in grade until tomorrow. So I will hold on. I'm not going to look at Khan Academy from last week yet. I want to give you the time for you to go back and do it if you have not done so. If you did it, then you're fine. If you did not complete them, go back, click on where it says pass, do, and do those. All right, find the slope. If you have 2 points, the formula for you is m equal y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So what is the slope of this problem? Can you share out in the chat, please? So go ahead and share your answers. Okay, so what is the slope of this one? Okay, let's see. Cool. I have one student gave me this. Okay. And then we have someone, so it's both correct. It just one reduced, the other one is not, so it can be 1/3. Williams, the Paradox is not working. I tried to turn it on and it won't load. So what I do, I'm just sharing my screen. Okay, so for today, we're not going to be able to do Paradox. Just have to do in paper and then share in the chat. So it's going to be a little bit different today. Okay. All right. Yes. So it's -3, 1/3, or if you gave me -4/12, that is fine as well. They both okay. Other questions from me? So 3 things we learned from last week: slope from a graph, slope from 2 points, and then slope from a table. Anyone remember how we find the slope from the table? Let's go ahead and put in the chat. We just do this as a quick review for those who was absent. This should help. Okay, so again, it's still y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So go ahead and share with me in the chat or, okay. Thank you, George. Yes, it's -1/3. Now we're gonna do the table. So let's check. So I still have to check a couple of things. What would it be? So to find for the table, just in case you forgot, it's a change of y over change of x values. So think about this. You have the x values and you have the y values. What do we have to do? All right, I have one student share with me 5 over -2. Anyone else have something different? So I'm going to look at the change, right? For the x from 5 to 3, it's going down by 2. It's decreased. And from -8 to -3, that would increase by 5. You can do this one. Or if you are like me, I don't like the negative number. I don't like negative. It's like, so I'm going to use these 2 values instead. So this increased by 5. Okay. And then from 2, 5, 3, there is a problem. This should be a 0 right here, okay? But it should be the right number, so I typed this, the number is wrong. But the slope should be 5 over 2. There's a typo right here, okay? So negative 5 over 2, so that's how you find the slope from a given table, right? For today, what we're going to do is we're going to put everything together as we've been learning is that we have word problems, we have the slope, we write the equation, we graph. Those everything we've been covering for the last couple of weeks, we're going to put together as a word problem. So like I said, it's not in PEDX right now. You won't be able to join. So you have to follow along with this, okay? This given word problem, we worked on this before, and you guys did a good job. You did well on your test. And then you know how I taught you how to graph the function, how to write the function. But for today, another thing that we're going to change is that instead of using the same thing that we've been using, we're going to use function notations. That's something new today. So it's not really new, but just another way that we're going to write the equation, okay? So remember, when we have a word problem, we use this format, y equal mx plus b, to write our equation. That's the one that we use. Okay, let's read the problem. Margot went to the lumber yard to buy supplies to build a wheelchair rack. She knows that she will need several pieces of wood. Each piece would cost $3. Okay, we're going to write the function for the total cost of the wood pieces if Margot buy X pieces of wood. So for this one, what we need is the slope and the y-intercept. That's when we write the equation, okay? We learn how to do this. So if we identify this one as each piece costs 3. So that's tell you the 3 is the slope. The B, or another name is the rate. The B is the initial values, which is how many that you started at. In this case, you don't start with anything, right? You start at 0. So the B in this case is 0. So remember how we write this equation, y equal 3x plus 0. Or you can just do y equal 3x. And that's what we learned. That's what we learned. For this lesson today, instead of write y, we have to change, we're going to use f of x. That's the difference. So we use f of x equal 3x. So it's going to be the same equation, but we're not going to use y like we used to. Okay? We learn how to do this, and most of you do well. Some still struggle, and you may forgot, but we're just going to spend time today to review how to write the equation, and then we have to change the way we write it. Instead of y, we use a function notation. Questions for me so far? Okay, so this is the equation, and we kind of learn how to graph this. So we kind of go backward a little bit. I gave you normally you have a graph, and then we find the slope. But for today, we're just going to learn how to graph. There's a couple ways. For those who remember how to graph this without using the table, you remember you start at 0. That's the y-intercept. The slope is 3, so you go up 3 over 1. Or if you can think of this, you go down 3 and then go to the left 1, which is the same. So down 3 over left, because negative will cancel out. So that's one way for you to graph this function, by doing that. Or if you forgot, what we can do is we can just choose a few points to plug it in. So let's see if I want to do from negative 2, negative 3, I'm sorry, let's clear this. Negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. Okay. And then we can plug it in. Negative 2 times 3 give you negative 6, negative 1, negative 3, sorry, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1. Okay, we can do this. So plug it in, -6, -2 gives you -6, -3, 0 gives you 0, 1 gives you 3. And then we can plot it. You can turn this into order pair, so -2 at -6, somewhere down here, -1 at -3, 0, and then 1, 3. So this is how you can graph this function. It's okay if the line is not straight, but there's two ways you can do it. You can graph straight from the equation or choose a random point and then plot those points in the graph. That would work. Questions for me? We will spend time next time to graph the line. So we'll talk more about this. But today we're going to focus on word problems and the rate, the slope, and the y-intercept. All right, so this is a table that's given to you. It's the same problem. We have the pieces of wood. We start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So remember, she's buying $3 per piece. The cost, the total cost, when you have 0 pieces, is $0. If you're going to buy 1 piece, you have to pay $3. You're going to buy 2, she pays $6, so on and so forth. And look at the graph. It starts from 0. Again, for this problem, I'm going to ask you to put in the chat why we only look at quadrant 1, but not other quadrants. Why we only care about quadrant 1. So the question is why we only care for quadrant 1. But why don't we look at the other quadrant? I'm going to ask you to put in the chat your answer, your guess. Even though you may not sure, that is fine. Okay. Put it in. I'll wait. No, right? We cannot have negative piece of wood. I'm not going to go and say, hey, but I'm going to buy -2 pieces of wood. So that is the reason why we don't care about the other side. We don't want to look at it. We only look at the positive because we talk a piece of wood. So we're not going to spend too much time to draw the other line. So that's the only reason. The same for the cost, we can have negative costs, especially when you owe money. But for this one, the one reason is that because we talk about a piece of wood, we're not going to have negative pieces. Okay. All right. So the question was, what is the slope of the line that we graphed? So what is the slope? You have the graph and you have the table. I'm going to ask you to put in the chat or go ahead and share out what is the slope of this line. Or if you think about the function that we have, Alexa share already the function. So there's a couple ways. So you can look at the table, you can look at the graph, or you can look at the function. What is the slope of this one? Okay, let's see. 1/3. I think you have it flipped. Some of you share with me was 1/3. It's flipped. It should be the change of y. So this f of x is the y, and this is the x. Okay, so it should be the other way around. Yes. Okay. So for this one, the slope, here's a couple ways you can do it. We can look at the change, which is 3/1. Or if you look at the graph, you can count. There's 1 point here and there's 1 point here. So this is 6/2, which gives me 3. 6/2. Or the fastest way you can do is if you look at your equation, this right here tell you that is the slope. That is 3. Okay. So I don't care which one that makes sense for you. You can look at the table, you can look at the graph, or look at the equation itself. So the 3 is telling you that this is the cost for each additional piece of wood. This tells you for, it's going to be $3 for each piece. Okay. So the rate is tell you how something, the rate is how much it costs per piece, per day, per hour, per minute, per item, whatever that we looked at, depend on the objects that we looked at, okay? So the slope, like I said, a couple ways, look at the table, look at the graph, or look at the function. What does that mean? It means the cost of rate per something, per day, per hour, something, okay? All right, so I'm gonna ask you to do this. I'm gonna expect that you're gonna put in the chat for me, okay? Here's the next question that I'm gonna ask you to do it, try it yourself. Margot is going to work with a local carpenter during the summer. Each week, she will earn $10 plus $2 per hour. So you wanna write that equation. I'm gonna remind you the general. So you want to replace the slope and the y-intercept. So go back to your work, go back to the statement, think about what is your slope and what is your y-intercept. Plug it in, okay? So think about the slope is the one, the rate, the M is the one with per day, per something, additional of something. The B is the one that you start and it's not going to change. So let's see. Thank you, Zenobia, Gina, for answering. Azuri, let's see. Okay. All right, cool. All right, so I see that you have the 2 and the 10 switch around. A lot of you just have the 2 and the 10 mixed. 2, okay. All right. So here is, if you look to think about this, the slope is the one that most of the time the slope or the rate is the one that has the word per each attached to it. So the equation should be 2x plus 10. So thank you for those who have it. The one who have the other way around, just be careful the next time that you look at these problems. The rate is the one with the per hour, per day, per minute, whatever. It has something with per and each, okay? So Jason, you want to make sure you be careful with that. Azuri, same. Alexa, that's good. Thank you. Okay. So this is what we're going to focus. So instead of y equal to, the new thing that we're going to learn today, we can use f of x, or sometimes depending on what they ask you. If they ask for h of x, then you use h of x. So it just depends on the name of the function they gave you. Okay. All right. So since let's talk about the hours that we're going to work, when we do the graph, if we're going to look at this graph, I'm not going to worry about these lines. I'm only look at quadrant 1 because it talks about the hours. I'm not going to have negative hours. So I'm not going to worry about anything on the negative side. I'm just going to start with a 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. I can do that. So when you plug in the 0, that gives you 10. You plug in the 1, give you 12, 14, 16. So basically, if you do the first, you know it's going to increase by 2, then we can do it to 0. And 1 is at 10, so it should be all the way up here. So you can start graphing this line. That's the idea, okay? So you can use a table, or what you can do is if you look at this equation, we're going to go back and talk about how to graph this line. later, and I know you learned this freshman year, so you can start with 10, someone 10 over here, and then you can go up. Sorry, I did it wrong. So if 0 is 10, sorry, so it should be up here. So this graph, you should start over here, 10, and then go up. All right, but that's not the focus for today. I'm not gonna worry too much about graphing the line. Okay, for today, the focus we're gonna look at is to write the function using function notation. And number 2, identify the slope and the y-intercept for me and tell me what that means. So this is a table, this is a graph, all right? So we're gonna use a graph and the table to answer the question. It's asking how much if she's gonna work for 8 hours, how much will she earn? So what is the total cost if she's gonna work for 8 hours? The option is we can use a table, we can use a graph, or we can use the function. So here's something that if you want to use the table, let's look, 8 hours. This one is only goes up to 6. 20, actually it's not 26, it should be 24. Okay, so we can do this. For the table, I can increase up to 26. Alexa, you're right, sorry. So this one is, we can do up to, I can draw this one, I can go to 7 and then 8. So for 7, it's going to be 24, and 28 is going to be 26. That's an option. So the answer is 26. Alexa, you got that. That's one way to do it. Or if you have the graph, you can look at 8, and then you can increase and you can find that values from the graph. Or if you use this one right here, I can plug it in, 2 times 8 plus 10. That also gives me 26. There's a couple ways for you to do this problem. You can either look at the table, use a table, or use a function, or look at the graph. Either way will work, okay? What is the slope of the line? So the slope, again, like I said, I'm going to put it at 26. You can use a table, you can use a graph, or you can use a function. In this case, I have a function, the slope is right there. I'm not going to do anything extra. I don't want to do anything extra, okay? So look over here, I know the slope is the one with the x value, so the slope should be 2. And then this one is the question asks the constant rate. The rate is another name for the slope, so it's also 2. So rate is another name for slope. So slope is 2. So these are the things that I want to work on with you today, is that kind of think about how we're going to write the equation. And then we're going to identify the slope. We're not going to do graph. We're going to skip the graph today, okay? So I'm going to find the slope, identify the slope, find the total by looking at the function. Question for me and the answer for those 3 questions. So anything that I went over and that confused you, please let me know. Okay, so we're gonna move by the end. So this one is so this one, we're gonna start with one a little bit different. It's still the same problem that we kind of talked about, but I'm gonna add a smaller detail to this problem. So we're gonna look at the different types of the problem just a little bit, okay? This one is by the end of summer. So this problem is still finding the slope and the y-intercept. We still use this y equal mx plus b. We still use this. However, we're gonna have something a little bit different for this question. By the end of the summer, Margot has saved $375. Recall that each of the small pieces of wood cost $3. Write the function for the amount of money that Margot still had if she's gonna buy X pieces of wood. So it's still f of x, still f of x. Okay, it's still the function, but it's going to be different a little bit. So I see a lot of you give me this. 3, I'm going to clear this, f of x. So this is what most of you gave me from private chat, from public chat. This is what you gave me. But here's the thing, that be very careful is just say that she has that $375. She's going to spend that money. So think about when you spend money, what happened to your rate? If you're going to spend money, it's going to be negative, correct? Zenobia, thank you. So it's going to be negative. So your function, instead of the 3, because I'm buying, I'm spending, that's going to be negative. So what you gave me is fine, but because I'm buying, I'm spending my money, I have negative 3. Another way for you to write this one, if it makes sense, I start with 375 and I'm going to spend the money. So that would be my equation. Okay, so be very careful because you still buy in, but the other one didn't say how much you have. This one is different a little bit, so you want to pay attention to the word problem and like, okay, am I spending? Am I adding to my collection or I'm decreased from it? Okay. All right. So either way, you can do negative 3x plus 375 or 375 minus 3x. It's going to give you the same thing. Okay. All right. Let's look at, like I said, we're going to skip the graph. We're not going to do it, but we're going to focus on when we have a table, we have a graph, we can identify the slope of the line, and then we look at the rate, and then we talk about what is the meaning of the slope. So we cannot talk about that. What is the slope of the line? I'm not going to look at the table. I'm not going to look at the graph. The easiest way is look at the function. So go ahead and tell me what is the slope of this line. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. The slope is negative. It's right here. It's the one with the x values. You want to, you can use a table. Totally fine. But Alexa, be careful. It should be y over x. Okay, so you want to have that flipped. Okay, so it's negative 3. And then the function is when we talk about constant rate, the rate is the same as the slope. So the constant rate is still negative 3. It's going down by 3 every single time. The meaning of the slope is, what does this negative 3 represent? That is what I mean by describe the meaning of a slope. I'm seeing some of you answer my question, so I'm going to wait. The cost per piece, yes. So this one, the slope represents the cost per piece, right? So those are the things that I want you to focus for today's lesson, and next time the lesson is still talk about the rate of change, identify, know what that is, and be able to write the equation. Okay, so you need to know how to write the equation. You need to recognize the slope. You need to also recognize the slope is the constant rate. Then you're going to tell me what that means. So these are the 4 things that we look at today. Okay. So I'm going to ask you to do practice. If you want me to put you in breakout room that you're going to work with someone, just let me know. I will put you in a breakout room with the one that you want to work with. There is an assignment for you to complete and turn it in by the end of class today. I'm giving you about 15 minutes, so I think it should be more than enough time for you to finish that assignment. It's not in school, it's not Khan Academy, it's not Kudo. work is in Schoology, which I'm about to share with you. Okay. So do you need a moment to copy this down, or can I go ahead and share my, tell you where you can look for it? We good with this one? So you still copy?